welcome everybody to this, the premiere episode of Hey Roma, the podcast. Here we talk about everything from news to politics to entertainment. But if you're looking for pro wrestling, go over to Power and Glory, the podcast, where there I'm joined once again by Mario Mancini and Paul Roma. But everybody, welcome to this, the premiere episode. I'm joined by my co-hosts, my fellow Americans, Mr. Paul Roma and Mr. Mario Mancini. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Hey, Emir, it's good to be here, and hey, everybody out there. It's great that you're joining us. Like our other podcasts, this is going to be a little different, but it's going to be kind of along the same lines. You're going to get, our opinions, and you're going to get the truth of what we speak about. So again, Mario, I'm glad you joined. And remember, we have Roman Nation, which are and not to make this a Republican Democrat kind of thing, but Roman Nation, my backers. We have Mancini's Maniacs, his backers. But at the end of the day, we're all one.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Mario, what you got to say to that?
Hey, Roma, it has been one hell of a sabbatical, brother. There are a lot of people that I spoke to this week that were very excited that Hey Roma was coming back. About a half an hour ago, I just got a yes with about 5 exclamation points because I cut a promo for it. So there are a lot of people that are happy to come, that we're back here at Hey Roma. It's been a long time. We have a lot to get caught up on and a lot to talk about. So let's roll, Emir. Let's roll.
We will roll indeed, Mario. But before we do roll, to all our viewers out there, make sure you march across that subscribe button and stand tall for what you believe in right here. Pick up your torch. This is Hey Roma. So, gentlemen, we're going to get rolling first and foremost with a topic that is in the media. It seems to be everywhere these days, masculinity. And the three of us understand that because we are all men. So a lot of people nowadays, though, are saying that are putting a downer on masculinity. The word toxic masculinity is being thrown around everywhere. So, gentlemen, I want, first of all, define your opinions of what is masculinity. Mario, we'll start with you.
Well, to me, that's an easy one for me because I had a father that was born in 1926. And he lived 4 months shy of 90. I'm the last of 6 children of a very tight-knit Italian family. Fought in World War II in the Battle of the Bulge for the United States Army. Got awarded the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star. So, you're reared by a man like that, and it's responsibility, accountability, honesty, character, it's all those things together. I can remember my father at a very young age. I had a conflict like in the 8th grade, and this is a guy with a 5th grade education. And he looked at me and he said, listen, if you can't back up what you say, keep your mouth shut. If you can back it up, and he was either talking about fact, the truth, or with these, That's how, if you can back it up. So this is the reason why I have many arguments at Roma, and I ran like hell because I couldn't back it up. So anyway, So, I was raised where you sat down, everybody sat down at the table for dinner. I remember going for the doorknob when I was 16, like on a Christmas day, and he goes, "Hey, where you going?" I go, "I'm going out to see my friend." He goes, "No, but nobody leaves this house on Christmas Day. No one, just stuff like that." And watching him provide for his family. My mother didn't have a driver's license. They were married for 65 years. She never had a driver's license. She finally got a job at Kmart part-time when I was like 26, actually, when I was just getting out of wrestling.
Mhm.
She finally picked up her little part-time job. She never worked before then. She was just a homemaker. Kind of sounds like the 1950s, but I tell you what, maybe today, a lot of people are more independent. Women are more independent. Women are stronger. But he brought us up with those values of providing for the family, which really it's kind of ironic, Emir, because if you speak to women between the ages of 25 and 35 today, they have a hard time
Mhm.
finding somebody who works, doesn't play video games, doesn't, you know what I mean? That so I love the values that my father, my brothers worked their fingers to the bone, both of them. We have that work ethic, and I've been at the same job. This April 3rd will be 30 years. We have that strong work ethic, and basically, if you ask my three daughters, you go, did your dad ever tell you he was going to do something and never do it? They go, never.
Mhm.
And I think that's what it comes down to in being a man is just being good to your word, being honest. Listen, we all make mistakes. Lord knows I've made mine, small and a catastrophic mistake.
Mhm.
Um, and you just own up to them, own what you do, try to learn from your mistakes, but be honest about them.
Mhm.
If you do wrong, look, Amir, if I do you wrong, it won't be on this show.
Mhm.
I'll FaceTime you and look you dead in the face and go, Amir, what I did was wrong.
Yeah.
And I apologize. And I hope you can forgive me. You could say, no, I don't, Mario, and hang up. But you know what? I looked you in the face. I told you I was wrong and I apologized. And that's what a man does.
Yeah.
That's what a man's supposed to do.
Yep. Yep.
That's what it is for me.
Very true. Paul, what about you? Same sentiments or additional things you want to add there?
Oh, same sentiments. Coming from an Italian background, my father was born in 1930, so not far from his dad. Um, I think it was more, I think it was etched. The Italian upbringing, the respect, family is the most important thing. Sit around the table, have your meal. There are no cell phones. There weren't any back then anyway, but nothing distracted you. You sat, you ate, you spent that time with your family, that camaraderie,
Mhm.
and you always made sure that you took care of one another, each
Mhm.
other.
Mhm.
Very, very important in the Italian culture, taking care of each other. Um, so yeah, the same, even though different family, the
Mhm.
same. My father served in the Navy during Korea. Um, and we heard the stories, the telltales,
Mhm.
but it was always about the other um, military people that were working so hard.
Mhm.
And I think Mario can concur with this, that his father didn't speak about what went on. He
Mhm.
had a lot of things to talk about when you think about him, getting a Purple Heart,
Oh, wow.
right? But
Yeah.
he doesn't bring that up as far as, he'll talk about something else aside from that.
Mhm.
And that's just the way, the Italians were. Back then, they didn't brag. We were taught to hold a door for a woman, for everybody, but mostly you hold a door for a woman.
Mhm.
Nowadays they get offended, some of them, if you
Mhm.
hold a door for them, or they don't thank you, which should come, spewing out of your mouth because that is the right thing to say.
Mhm.
My daughter holds a door for people, and she'll walk over to me afterwards. She'll say, wow, they don't even say thank you, Dad. I'm like, don't expect it.
Mhm.
Don't get mad. Don't get upset. Don't expect it.
Mhm.
It's just how people are in the culture that's going on today. Um, so yeah, it's one and the same for the most part.
Mhm.
The culture today, they've gone astray from the respect. Like my father said to my brother and I one day, he says, if you're ever driving down, in the highway and you see somebody stuck, you make sure you pull over and help them. Don't ever let me hear that you didn't stop and help somebody, because we're going to have a real problem. So, and to this day, I'm 65 years old. That stuck with me. I see people stuck, whether it's on the highway, in a parking lot, wherever it may be. I'll go help them change their tire, or actually change the tire for, them, or try to give them jumper cables so we could jump their car, whatever the case may be. Not expecting anything in return, hell, not even a thank you.
Right.
If they do, that's great. I appreciate the thank you. If they don't, it was my pleasure to do that. And it makes me feel good about what I did because of the way I was brought up.
Yeah. So what I'm getting here, gentlemen, though, is the family unit. The family unit is so important. It's how we as a society got to where we are today. And I think, sadly, you see a lot of that family unit being broken up through, I think, no fault of anybody in particular. It's just the economic times and the dangling of the proverbial carrot in front of everybody that you can attain or have whatever you want. So it's kind of like I notice even myself guilty of this. When you're looking for a video on YouTube or something, there's so many different options. Sometimes you may even be enjoying what you're watching, but you'll just click on the next one just because it's there. Back in the day, when you had to rent a VHS from the video store, you had one video at home. It was simple. Your decision was made for you. So interesting way to open up. Now, that's your definition of masculinity, and I would agree with that. So what is toxic masculinity that we hear so much about in the media from various individuals? Mario, to you, what is toxic masculinity? What does that mean?
I got a bad habit. I got a bad habit, and I'm doing pretty well with it these days. It started last year. Hi, can I take your order? Yeah, sweetie, how are you? I'm not your sweetie.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, you know. I really don't know what they mean by that. Almost makes me want to Google it. I don't know, Emir. You can't. I feel like right now you can't win, because if if you're controlling or try to tell somebody what to do too much, you're a narcissist, or you're controlling. If you lay back like I am and go, okay, yes, yes, whatever makes you happy, absolutely, I just want to make you happy. But that stems from me having a low self-esteem. But then they look at you as you're weak. You're not strong. You get confused. I want somebody that'll tell me what to do, somebody that'll stand up to me. And then you go to do that and they go, you're abusive. And then you lay back and they go, oh, you're a wimp. So I don't know the answer to that question. It's I guess because I'm in such a way that I am, and we have the right guy on this podcast, because ever since I was 18 years old to present day, he's been lecturing me about how I am in a relationship. And that's why I haven't been in a serious relationship in almost 7 years. you know, Roma would say, listen, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. Stop doing this, stop doing this. They're going to get used to it, then they're going to walk all over you. Right down to leaving me, and I'm there in pieces. And Roma's going, tell her, good riddance. Don't pick up the phone. Don't pick up that phone. Don't pick up. And I'm picking up the phone going, can't we just try it? I told you not to pick up the phone. So I I don't mean I don't mean to bow out or forgot the term I wanted to use. It left my head. But I'm a Cancer, so it's very difficult. I don't mean to cop out, but I'm a Cancer, so it's really hard for me. I need to be an Aquarius. No offense to Aquarius.
Yeah.
They're tough people. Emotionally, they're tough people.
Yeah. No, but would you say that the man, the fictitious character on your shirt right there, would you say he's toxic masculinity, Superman?
Well, for me, he isn't, because the reason why I have Superman um garb, and I actually have
Yeah,
a 6.5 hour tattoo. For me, this symbol just simply means truth and justice.
yeah.
And I don't. I'm kind of confused about the American way these days, but for me, this symbol for me means truth and justice, and the the fictitious character and the storyline behind this S. And they go, gee, Superman, what's your S means? He goes, it means hope. So that's what it means to me. The last thing it means to me is the Man of Steel,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy that could kick your butt and bullets pop off of him. It's just a symbol for me.
Yeah, that's good. And now, Paul, to you, what do you think? What is toxic masculinity? What can your mind conjure if someone were to say that to you? What would it mean to you?
Well, the immediate thing that comes to mind is everything that our father stood for and that we try to stand for. So, like his mother, my mother didn't work. My father worked 2 and 3 jobs to take care of his family, and that's just how it was. I remember my mom saying something about getting a job, and he was like, "No, no, no, that's not happening. You're raising the kids. That's your job." Okay. Today, when I hear when you say that word, toxic masculinity, I think of just the opposite.
Mhm.
You're not supposed to open the doors, hold a door for a woman. Don't open the car door. Don't open a door walking into a store. Um, if the woman wants to pay for the meal, let her pay for the meal. You don't have to pay for the meal anymore. It went from the man pays for the meal to we'll go Dutch, and now it's okay for the woman to pay for the meal.
Mhm.
It never flew with us back in our day. It just wasn't right. My dad in the Navy would send his checks home
Mhm.
because his mother was taking care of the kids. His father passed away young, and he would just send his checks home.
Mhm.
Do you hear about tales like that?
Mhm.
When you look, when you watch people go into stores, uh, guys will cut in front of women,
Mhm.
not stop and say, "Oh no, please go." You first,
Mhm.
um, and that's okay in today's world. It's
Mhm.
it's still not okay in my mind,
Mhm.
but it is okay in today's world. It shouldn't be,
He's pooping.
but women are acting like that's okay. Think
Mhm.
about this. If you and a woman walk to a door at the same time, you met at the same time,
Mhm.
and she stood there and you stood there, you're waiting for her to open the door, she's waiting for you. We'd never get anywhere
Right.
in today's world. And when you go to what was on Mario's chest, Superman, he stood for truth and justice in the American way.
Mhm.
Well, what is truth and justice in the American way anymore?
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, people are making up what they want. I don't have to hold a door for a woman. I don't have to be polite to her. I don't have to say thank you. It's just a whole different world right now, and it needs to go back.
I think there is something, as you two were talking there, something I wanted to throw in. For me, it was always a natural inclination, even as a child, to understand that I was a man, a boy. I was masculine, on many levels, physically stronger and things of that nature. But much like a female will nurture a child, I think men, if you're listening to your inner being, have just a natural inclination. Okay, I've got to protect this woman because, but that goes back. That's who we are. That's in our DNA. That's embedded in our DNA since the beginning of time. If you go back to the ancient, even the Neanderthals and the Vikings, and look at how, because obviously they did something right, to you gentlemen's point. Otherwise, we wouldn't have arrived to where we are today.
Correct.
If everyone was throwing out the family unit back in the Viking times and the Egyptian times, we wouldn't have even got to this point in society. The family unit is so vitally important. And like you said, Paul and Mario, you both grew up in slightly separate generations. I'm another generation, but even my dad, he taught me similarly to the two of you gentlemen, which is going to be a perfect segue into our next topic. One that I can't speak much of, but I know the two of you can, and that is our armed forces, our military men and women, and other people that serve this country. So I want to let's just start by talking about what those individuals mean to you. Paul, we'll start with you.
Wow. Our military, they mean, I probably can't say enough what they mean to me. They are the reason why the United States exists. The reason why we're here. The reason why we get to have our freedom. Why we get to have freedom of speech. Why the amendments are there. You know, I don't think there's, other than thank you from the bottom of my heart, I don't think there's anything that I can say that would, I don't have a word
Mhm.
that would spell out, just how I feel, other than I'm so grateful to the men and women that went and fought for what we have today, which is our freedom, our freedom of speech. We could walk out the door in the morning and well, well, depend upon what neighborhood you're in, but you can walk out and nothing's going to happen. Bad guys, bad soldiers aren't going to be there. They haven't, come to the United States and taken over. Why? Because of the brave and women that went to war and fought for our independence and our freedom. So, the military, all military families mean so much more than I could put into words.
Mhm. Just before I get to you, Mario, do either of you gentlemen know if the numbers of those who enroll in the military these days is still as high as it was, say, 30 years ago? Do we have any of those
Well,
stats? Do we know?
what I can't say, I can't give you a number. My understanding is that it has dwindled,
Okay. Okay.
last I heard,
Okay.
but don't hold me to that.
Mario, your thoughts on our servicemen and women. We want to give them a moment to shine here.
Well, but as Roma was saying, um, you're to have that freedom of speech. I mean, to be able to come out on your front porch and go, "Good morning, my neighbors," and somebody scream back, "Scared you there, Emir, didn't I?
Yes.
Scared you." Listen, this is I sat with table of heroes. I sat with a room full of war heroes. I sat with over 100 Vietnam veterans that were in the Marines. And I just looked around the table and around the room in awe. And I didn't deserve to be there. I was there with Roma, Stephen Lee. Stephen Lee, a Vietnam veteran, invited us to come because we wanted to voice our opinion to the veterans about this show and how this show is going to be a lot about them and what they sacrificed for us. Um, it was an amazing feeling, and Roma is right. We were around that table for a few hours, and they talked about Vietnam, and they talked about the house helpers they had, the Vietnamese house helpers, and how one of the helpers got their aluminum bike stolen and he went over and got it back for him. Nothing was about the battlefield. They wouldn't talk about that. But in me personally, what my father would always watch a John Wayne war movie and look over at me and go, "Hey, you see that? A World War II movie." He goes, "You see that?" No, that's Hollywood, he said. That's not.
Okay.
That's Hollywood. You're watching Hollywood right now. To see my dad at times, you got to remember, Emir, I had brothers that were 12 and 13 years older than me.
Okay.
So like I'm 7 years old and one's 21 and one's 20 and I got a squirt gun.
Right.
And they go, "Hey, hey, hey, go squirt daddy." And I went running up and I went, "Hey, Dad." And I thought my wrist was broken because he took a chop and he chopped my wrist and the gun went flying and I went like this and he went, "You ever point a gun at me, ever." And when I got older, I talked to my father about that episode and I understood. I understood. Um, and he wouldn't talk to me a lot about it. I also have a brother-in-law that's a Vietnam veteran, and it's funny because that's my father. I'm his son, and all he would say is, "You dig a foxhole, you get in a foxhole, and you shoot anything that comes near it." But when he got with my brother-in-law Mike, they'd get in a corner, and it was only after my father passed away where he went into detail about the war. And he honored my father and said, "I would never repeat what he told me." As you can't talk to Mike about Vietnam, he won't talk to you about it. So, why am I saying this? A lot of us live with failures. I live with one every day. Mistakes. I live with one every day. It's a black cloud that haunts me. Everybody, a broken heart you can live with. And eventually, as time goes on, these guys, what they experienced never leaves them.
Right.
It never leaves them, ever. So what do I feel about these guys? I feel like that they're the $700 million contract guys, not the baseball players. They're the ones that should be revered. They're the ones that should be put on the pedestal. They're the ones that say, "Hey, I was in the even if they wanted to split it up, I was in the military, but not in a war." Okay, then you're in this category. "I was in the military and I fought in a war." Okay, you're in the, you know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody should be respected greatly that was in the military. And you know what? It's like they need help. They need help. A lot of them need a lot of help. Why? They were out there taking a bullet, so I can leave my front door and get in my car and go to work and get up and say, "Well, I need to go to the drugstore. I need this. I need to do that. I need to do this." Listen, because of social media, I talk to people in third world countries. I talk to people. I talked to one person that was so sexually harassed at work. And I said, "Go to the owner." And she said, "You don't understand. In this country, if I do that, they'll throw me in jail."
No.
What?
Yeah.
We don't realize and we take for granted the freedom that we have. And we have it because of those guys going to the VA, whatever they have to beg for, embarrassing. The guys in a wheelchair, the guys that wear their hat, Vietnam. Roma and I do the same thing. I'll go up to a stranger. Well, I did it at a bakery. I was texted Roma. There was a Vietnam veteran in front of me. I said, "Excuse me, sir. He goes, yes. I said, thank you so much for your service. I really appreciate it.
Mhm.
He goes, oh, you're welcome. And I text Roma. I showed him the back of his jacket. I said, I got a Vietnam veteran. It was a big deal
Mhm.
to us.
Yeah.
To us, that's a
Yeah.
big deal.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while we're on this subject, gotta blow off some steam. So strap yourselves in, everybody. I'm gonna blow off some steam right now.
Okay.
So when I hear these announcers, and we'll just take baseball for now. Guy hits a home run. I don't care if it's a grand slam or it's just a single home run or whatever. I am so tired, so sick and tired of hearing about what a hero this guy is. You're playing the game you love. You're playing the game that you're making millions, having a great time on green grass, and you're a hero because nothing else comes out of these announcers' mouths. It goes for basketball. The guy makes a shot. Oh, he's the hero of the game. He's not a hero. He made a shot. That's his job. Okay. He hit the ball. He struck the guy out. That's his job. Then we go over to hockey, which I was watching the other night, and they played the national anthem. Actually, I was watching the Boston Bruins, and they have the gentleman who comes out and sings the national anthem. And I saw multiple skaters, players, without their hands over their heart, not standing at attention, back and forth, moving back and forth while they're moving their legs on their skates on the ice, not paying it any mind, not showing any damn respect.
Mhm.
I came unglued.
Mhm.
Not going to smash my TV because it's not going to do them any good and they're not going to feel it.
No.
But I have to do my homework and find out who can I contact? Who can I contact?
Mhm.
When I go to a game and they're playing the Canadians, right? I'm at a Boston Bruins game. I stand with my hand over my heart for the Canadian national anthem as well as the United States.
Yeah.
I show respect for them.
Mhm.
There are people that the Canadians fought in the war, and they have many had died.
Mhm.
And yet you on the ice making hundreds of thousands of dollars, some of you making millions of dollars for what? A minute?
Mhm.
For 1 minute, you can't stand that attention and show respect. Why do you think you're on that ice,
Mhm.
having the time of your life skating and making all that money?
Mhm.
Because of the people who sacrificed their blood, their life for this, for your freedom.
Mhm.
Something has to be done
Mhm.
about it to these players. They have to be held accountable in my eyes. But that's the respect that I have, and I know Mario has, and he backs my sentiments 100%.
Mhm.
As you, Emir.
Yeah, I back you.
Something has to be done about it.
Yep, I back you likewise, Paul. And I think one of the biggest things we need to try and convey, especially to this younger demographic, and it is, sometimes it's through no fault of their own. Like Mario, you brought up at the beginning of this episode, video games. They're so distracted by the comforts and luxuries to be able to drift into a fantasy world today. They don't truly understand. And it was starting to even evade my generation. By the time, I was growing up, cell phones were starting to come in, modern conveniences. If your car broke, just drive it to the mechanic. It was like there's one on every corner. As you go back further, there was less and less of these things. You had to do it yourself. And I don't think it's been conveyed enough. And I would encourage anyone who is young, who wants to know more, to feel more patriotic and more holding to the morals and values that this country was founded on, the need to be defended. Watch one of these war films. They don't even do it justice, but you'll see the gripping violence, the being torn away from your family. Like Paul and Mario said, I echo those remarks. To be able to skate on ice now, it was because somebody before you slept in the trenches, slept outside where wild animals were roaming. When they had a cut, they had to burn it with a match to get the wound to cauterize. These were people, they had an injured foot. It was too mangled. They chopped it off. I mean, this is the type of sacrifice we're trying to convey here that was put into founding this country.
You know,
J-
Amir,
yeah.
I was at a game. I screamed at a guy who kept, and he wasn't a young kid,
Mhm.
who kept his hat on during the national anthem. And
Mm.
I had yelled at him, get your hat off as
Yeah.
the anthem started. I
Yeah.
mean, really?
Yeah.
You have to keep your hat on. And they ask you too. They ask you if you can stand, please stand if you're able to,
Mm-hmm.
and remove your hat. Okay. Is that so hard?
Mm-hmm.
Is you asking that much? Is that difficult?
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Yeah.
it's the culture now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they all think they could do what they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't matter. Again, you have a football being thrown at you.
Mm-hmm.
You have a baseball being hit at you.
Mm-hmm.
A hockey puck being slap shot at you. That's a far cry from bullets and rockets
Mm-hmm.
coming at you that could do permanent damage and death.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that's wrong with this generation that they don't understand? What is it that it's like everybody gets a ribbon, right? You
Mm-hmm.
compete today, everybody gets a ribbon. There's no first, second, and third, and that is it. They have to pander to, fourth, fifth, sixth, 10th, and so on down the line.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on in this world? Why is it like that? What led it?
Mm-hmm.
What made it get to that point
Mm-hmm.
where people complain that their kid didn't get a ribbon because, you're screwing the kid up mentally because he has a ribbon? No.
Mm-hmm.
You're making the kid tougher and making him work harder
Mm-hmm.
so that he gets that prize, that ribbon, that medal.
I think if I may interject, I've often thought this myself. It's like, where's the beginning and the end of the snake? When did this start to happen at an exponential rate? And I think it all boils down. One of the things I want to stress again, if it was so bad the way things were done before, how on earth did we get to this point? If it was that bad, upbringing your children with discipline and things of that nature, and like you said, being chivalrous, being who you are on a genetic level to assist and protect a woman, these sorts of attributes. If it was that bad, we would have extinguished ourselves as a human race a long time ago. I think what
Agree.
happened, Paul, is there was a time period, and again, we want to stress it's not all of this generation. I'm sure there are
No.
many, and we know there are many out there that are, they respect their elders, they respect their parents, they respect, first and foremost, they need to respect God and then their country and what came before them. But I think there was a time when there was a lot of rebelliousness. And I know the two of you gentlemen lived through that, during the what was it, the 60s, 70s with the hippies. And then they started experimenting with psychedelic drugs and things like that. There was a rebellion against the parental unit. So if that started in earnest 50 years ago now, right? Let's just say, give or take, it's had 50 years to permeate. All it takes is it's like you both of you know how easily someone can be corruptible. It could be a really nice guy, straight on the up and up. Every day he talks to a guy, whispers in his ear, just do it. Just do it.
Right.
Just do it. Eventually, that guy, if he does not have a strong will, gets carried away and he becomes something he's not. And I think we could say, if we analyze the way things have gone, that's sort of how it's a rebelliousness. Maybe some of these individuals don't even really have a reason why they're doing it. They're just doing it to be part of the rebellion. Mario, what do you think about that? I see you pondering.
Well, I not to digress, but to answer your question, the military enrollment is down 58% from 1980 to 2020.
Wow.
So they wanted to take it from 1973, but I was 7, and I'm not sure if the draft was still going on because the Vietnam War was still going on. So I didn't want to go with those numbers, but from 1980 to 2020, it's down 58%.
That's a huge.
It. I don't. People. I think it starts with God.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it starts with God, and if you believe in God, I think that your values well, let's break it down really simple. Your values are different because your rules are different, because you want to follow the rules, because if you follow the rules, there's a reward in the end, right? Okay, if you do God's work. For somebody who's an atheist, well, it's kind of the wild, wild west, because they don't, there's nothing to obtain to them. There's no afterlife. There's no, so you have that difference going on. It starts there. I think after that, you know, what I started this podcast with is, it's different because my dad was born in 1926. Roman's dad was born in 1930. So now, even though I'm not parent, we have the people from the 80s now that are parents,
Mhm.
but I didn't come from a divorced family, and there was a lot of that going on in the 80s. And it was a wild time in the 80s. And these kids, they were raising their kids, and now they're parents.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, as the money was flying in the 80s, as the cocaine was flying in the 80s, as more is better, was bad, bigger is better back in the 80s, the big 80s. So they're raising kids now. So what are the values? I mean, I've been saying it for weeks that I can remember my dad and my family, and who was a Democrat and who was a Republican, friends, and they'd have conversations if they came over to my house. Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, whatever, and they'd end up sitting there telling other stories and laughing, and had their differences. You can't do that today.
Mhm.
You're verbally attacked. I mean, you are beaten down so badly,
But
both sides.
but Mario, what is the in the Constitution? The Constitution, the first, hold on a second here. I'm going to see if I've got this on my phone because I was reading this earlier. If I can get back to it, excuse me, everybody, for a moment. The First Amendment, the fundamental freedoms. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So there it is right there, the First Amendment. Uh,
Wells.
yeah, yes, I was reading it, Mario. So,
Well, I remember it well from law school.
yes.
Amir, and this is for the lay people out there, that shake their fist and go, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. Yeah, you have freedom of speech. It doesn't blanket everything, right?
Mm.
There's restrictions, believe it or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't use fighting words. You can't yell fire in a movie theater.
You can't just bash someone for no reason, you know?
No, there's a reason why slander and
Yep.
defamation exist. And there are limits to the First Amendment. There's things that you can't say, and people get so hung up on it's called freedom of speech. You know what? It is called freedom of speech, but when you want to see the truth, when you want to see when you want to say Mario Mancini only won 3 matches in the WWF over almost an 8-year period, he was one of the worst jobbers I've ever seen. I couldn't stand him. When his match came on, I went to the bathroom. I see his podcast and I hate the guy. I can't stand what Mario Mancini stands for. You have a right to say that, and you have a right to your opinion. You know what I mean? And you could say that all day long. But if you say Mario Mancini had 4 wives and his fourth wife died mysteriously and nobody knows that, well, I only had 3, Emir. Yeah, 4.
There you go. Not yet.
No, never.
He's working on it.
I only had 3. Lord knows it's on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
How? I don't know. But you know what I mean? When you start saying things that aren't true,
Right.
you know what I mean? Your First Amendment's not gonna protect you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna protect you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like I blew Roma's mind one day because he was talking to me about a situation, and I think the language was, yeah, well, when I see you, Emir, when I come and see you next Wednesday, I'm gonna knock your teeth out. 911, hey, that's a threat. That's not a threat.
Yeah.
So people get confused. Like Roman's like, is that a threat? I go, no, it's not. And he's like, why isn't it a threat? Because with a threat, you have to be in imminent harm.
Mm-hmm.
Imminent harm. So if you go, hey, listen, I'm gonna whack you next Tuesday, or next Wednesday, or next Thursday, a threat of future harm is not a threat. Okay. So there's a lot of little nuances people don't understand, and that includes the First Amendment. You know what I mean? But I like the example that yes, you could say, hey, Donald Trump looks orange, and I don't like what he stands for, and he's going to make the prices go up, and I don't like his tariffs, and I don't like it. And Kamala never worked at McDonald's, and I can't find any records of it. And she can't even talk. She's said 32 5 times when the monitor went out. She can't even talk for herself. Well, all these things happened, and all these things are true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you start making up your own stuff that could potentially hurt people, that isn't the truth.
Right.
The First Amendment's not going to. It's just not going to protect you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not.
It's a different. I think one of the things that is resounding in all of this is that structure, like you said, about the person who doesn't believe in God. Why would that person? It's almost like actually, I'm going to use Superman as a reference because you are wearing the shirt. And when I was growing up, it was my favorite movies of all time with Christopher Reeve. In the second movie, there was a very powerful scene. I never got it until I became a born again believer in Christ Jesus. When he returns, he goes to his dad and he says, "I want Lois Lane." And it's, oh, okay. Well, then you're going to lose all of your powers. He loses all of his powers and he goes off with his selfish ambition, turns away from what his parents already warned him of, goes away, gets his ass handed to him in a bar, and realizes that the evil guys are now taking over the world. And there is nothing he can do about it. He has to march all the way back across up the North Pole as a human now. He can't be warm or fly, and goes back a broken man and asks for forgiveness, asks to talk to his father, and then he cannot have Lois Lane, but he makes that sacrifice because he's following the rules. So the person who doesn't follow the rules, if you teach an entire generation, it's actually Aleister Crowley did this, do what thou wilt. And coincidentally, the people who wear a lot of his garb are Jay-Z, Beyonce, do what thou wilt. He was a well-known Satanist. He was involved in the music industry. We'll do an episode on that later down the line. But if you're in that mindset, like you're saying, Mario, you have no loyalty. If you have no allegiance to God, you've got none to your parents. You've got none to your country because you're just free flowing through life with
you're gunslinging through life.
Yeah, you've got nothing. So I think back when I was growing up, we had God in school in England. And again, just so everybody's clear, I'm not preaching what anybody should do. I'm just telling you what I lived through. But you guys had that too. And that was the head, and then everything under that trickled down thereafter. And like I said, I think we did pretty well to get to the year 2025. So it must have been working, but it's changed now. But back to the military, because the two of you are involved in several things with the military. And I want to get that across to our viewers in the premiere episode coming back with Hey Roma. So Paul, tell us what you guys are cooking. What's going on here?
Okay. Well, one of the things, you heard Tunnels of Towers, and there's other organizations out there helping kids and our military. What we here on Hey Roma like to do is just this. After speaking with quite a few Marines and other military people, uh, it was brought to our attention by Stephen Lee that there are a lot of guys, women, that maybe they want to find out where they are at this time. How are they doing? Are they still alive? And what Stephen had proposed to us is an avenue for that. So let's say, Emir, you're looking for somebody and you have some details. When he served, obviously his first and last name, maybe even have a date of birth. And we would set up a fund, an organization where this can be funneled through, and we try and find that missing person for you, for lack of a better word, missing military person for you, and try and reunite you, or at least see, is he homeless? Does he need help? You know what I mean? Does he have any family? Maybe he's all alone and he's suffering, right? Or he's in a hospital somewhere, and you want to get back with him. And when we were at Arlington National Cemetery, when we were at this memorial for the Marines, Vietnam vets, it was so, how can I say? It brought tears to your eyes. Stephen Lee ran into one of his buddies that he hadn't seen since the war.
Wow.
And then they started reminiscing, and Mario and I are sitting next to one another, just jaw dropped, saying, look at this. I mean, we talked about it we had driven down, and it was about 5 hours, Mario, to get down there. We spoke like 5 hours straight, all the way back, just overwhelmed by, just that one thing where these men and women were reconnecting with fellow, personnel, fellow Marines.
Yeah.
What have you done since, Vietnam, or, remember, blah, 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 like Mario had started to say. And we're like, wow, this would really work. They should be able to get back to one another. And we want to set up a foundation, through the podcast, through sponsorship. Hopefully we get that much of a following and that big, so that we can go and search out and see your buddy. Is he still alive? Is he living at home, or is he living on the street?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Is he okay? That's the main thing. Stephen Lee came up with it. We thought it was a great idea, and we want to run with it.
Yeah, it looks like, and gentlemen, Stephen Lee, he will be a guest on Hey Roma at some point in the future, I am sure. We will have other guests that will be military persons that are going to come on the show. I'm also going to be tracking down some city council members from places around the country, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll be able to have them on as special guests. Mario, did I interrupt you there? You looked like you were once again pondering. Okay.
No.
Okay. Just to be safe.
I am pondering. I am
cover it pretty much?
Yeah,
Mario, did I cover it?
Yeah. No, you definitely covered it. And it's like the segment's called "Where Are They Now?" And obviously we need resources to find these people. That's the only reason why we want to get this rolling. So we can bring them together. So it's really important to us. It's important to Stephen Lee. I mean, spending the night with that guy, and Roman made it work. We were all in one room, and the stories that he was telling just about his life and about the 60s and the 70s, the guy just he had you glued. So a lot of respect to those men and women that fought in the Vietnam War, and they went through a lot, and whatever.
And they went through a lot when they came home, and I know I wasn't, I know Mario wasn't, because our our fathers made sure that wasn't the case, that, we talked down to them as a lot of other Americans did. We showed, we still do have the utmost respect for them. And that's very important, because when they came back, they were not looked on, very nice.
Favorably.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, favorably, not by any stretch of the imagination. And that's really sad, because they didn't ask to go. They were like first responders. They were called and they went, and that was it. They got the phone call and they went, and they put their life out there. They didn't have any say in the matter. And I think that's something that back then, the so-called, not so nice people, that movement that they had just wasn't fair. It was unfair to them, and they didn't deserve that. Now, again, not the way I was brought up. And when I want to go back to what you said about, God and everything. Yes, you're absolutely right. Me growing up, when we wanted to do something that was wrong, and nothing hard, nothing really bad, meaning, it was, I hope God doesn't see me do this. We went to church every Sunday. Our father preached the Bible to us, God's words to us, the 10 Commandments. You could say them, I could say them forward, backwards, sideways, back then.
Yeah.
And you respected, but you feared God.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you didn't want to be in a bad light with him.
Right.
You stole a 1 cent piece of bubble gum, and then you had to go to confession, or you had to, do something to make things right. But there were times when, you would think about it, but then you say, oh, no, nope, the devil's trying to make me do that. He wants me to steal that. I'm not doing it. I'm not listening. I mean, it was that in depth, with me as a kid growing up, my older brother and my older cousins. And wow, did I have a lot of influence, with older brother and cousins.
Yeah.
I was just that kid. If they tell you go do something, sure, you thought about it. And then you're like, man, there's a lot of pressure on me here, no matter what it was.
Yeah.
You go ring that doorbell and we're going to take off. Why me? Why do I have to do it?
Yeah.
And that was like one of the worst things, right? At the end of the day, that was a bad thing that you were doing.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore. No one has respect for life, which is, I think, the biggest thing. The lack of respect for human life. Kids are being killed all the time by either stray bullets or, being directly shot. They're being subjected to drugs that they wouldn't normally take, or, had taken by accident, because, again, didn't know what it was. These kids aren't protected, not even by their own brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Their own brothers are subjecting them to violence, and it's just wrong. This has to turn around. Not getting too political, but I heard some stuff on TV, and it was about how Biden had said that all Trump supporters basically are trash, right? They're garbage. Here's the thing I don't understand. He spoke about, throughout his campaign, he spoke about uniting, our country, bringing everybody together. What I haven't heard from either side is, there's Republicans, there's Democrats, there's moderates. Okay, you have all that. But just for argument's sake, you have Republicans and Democrats, right? Why? We're all Americans at the end of the day. So why are we bashing one party or the other? Is it you want to have a civil war where the Republicans are fighting the Democrats, just like the North fought the South? I mean, at the end of the day, you want to bring people together. Why is it that somebody who likes MAGA should be afraid to open his mouth because there's somebody who likes Kamala standing there? What makes them think they have the right to tell this person to shut up?
Right. Yeah.
I've seen it. And I've actually had my students say to me, what are you going to do? I said, I was thinking about putting on a mega hat.
Mhm.
Oh my, no, please, Paul, please don't do that. Please don't do that. I'm like, why? No, because we don't want you to get in trouble.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, I wanted to put it on
Mhm.
because I wanted to see for myself.
Mhm.
Is somebody really that anal about it where they're going to say, take that off, or they're
Mhm.
going to come up and knock it off my head? I
Mhm.
mean, again, I have a right to who I want. If I was wearing a Kamala hat,
Mhm.
I have a right for my decision to make to who I want to vote for. I
Mhm.
don't need somebody wanting to beat me up or knocking it off my head. I
Mhm.
shouldn't have to fear that and
Yep.
be that way. At the end of the day, we're supposed to be human beings.
Yep.
I mean, we shouldn't even be going through, we shouldn't even have wars now, if you
Right.
think about it. We're supposed to be civilized people.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, we can't even be civil with one another
Mhm.
here in the United States when it comes to who we want to vote for. If you want to vote for Kamala, more power to you. If you
Mhm.
want to vote for Trump, more power. That's fine, dude. You
Mhm.
have a right to do that. It
Mhm.
shouldn't be me, harassing you and,
Mhm.
and spewing out hatred towards you.
Right.
At the end of the day, you're a human being.
Mhm. I think,
And this
yeah.
is what we've lost. You know why we've lost it? Because we've lost God.
Yep. I was just gonna say, if you take God out of the equation, you go back in the history books. Once a country or a civilization took God out of the mix, read what happened to them. It
Correct.
and for those that are against Christianity, go and check out one of the other books because it happened in all of them throughout all of time. Once they took God out of the equation, and I want to get that point across. I don't understand why God is a bad thing to certain individuals. Is it because they have a rebellious spirit where they just want to go against him constantly? Because from why I look at it, if you follow God's will, just like a plant does. It understands that it needs photosynthesis, it understands it needs water, et cetera, and it does
Right.
its job. So when you go against the grain of the job, it's like someone who's a natural artist, but they don't have a brain for numbers, but they choose they want to become a banker. Well, that doesn't make sense. It's not going to work.
Right.
See what's there naturally in front of your eyes, inside your being, and follow that. And don't, I think one thing I'll stress to viewers is don't be influenced which way or not. We each have, as corny as it sounds, we each have an inner spirit, what an inner voice, inner little voice is what they say, that little voice. You can follow that, but discern because the inner voice that's good, you'll know it's good. The inner voice that's bad, you'll know it's bad. But just to follow that.
Well,
Um,
I'm gonna leave our people with this.
okay.
Okay. I'll leave our people with this.
Okay.
I think because there are rules in religion, and we all know what they are. If you believe in God, we all know what they are.
Hmm.
And for a lot of people, that's too hard for them to follow those rules. And so it's a lot easier. Let's get rid of God.
Hmm.
And now I can do whatever I want. And there are no repercussions in their mind,
Hmm. Hmm.
as opposed to the ones that follow the Lord and believe in what he says
Hmm.
and the commandments, they abide by them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's too difficult for those other people that feel, you know what? There is no God. I'm going to use that one so I don't have to follow the rules.
Yeah. It's strange because again, if there is no God, these people, in my opinion, should be doubly afraid because that means to them when they finally close their eyes, it's over and nothing else happens. So I'd be doubly fearful.
Right.
Mario, you look like you're in serious thought beneath that
Well,
end.
Emir,
Yep.
let me ask you what I'm holding up.
Okay. What are you holding up, Mario?
Can you see it?
It looks like a arrow, like a pyramid.
It's a triangle.
Okay.
Okay. So you got this triangle you're carrying on your back. It's not that heavy. And you're carrying it through life. You're doing pretty well. On the tip of this triangle is God. One day, you decide to get rid of God. You get rid of God, what happens to the triangle? Both sides collapse.
Right.
So you need God to keep it together. You know, Roma wants to leave everybody with something. So do I. You know, in 1993, I got reintroduced to this person, and I met this person, and I said, "Here's my heart." He said, "Good choice. Now, really learn about me." And I did. And this person forgave a thief, burglars, tax collectors, and prostitutes. He didn't turn his back on any of them. Why can't society get along and accept each other's differences and respect them without terrorizing them? Because there's a lack of God. You see, when you decide to get saved, the road is narrow. The path is narrow, man.
Yes.
You know, so, but you know what? The Lord loves when you try. He loves that. As long as you keep trying, no premeditated sin either. No, well, I know I'm going to be forgiven, so I'm going to do it anyway. That doesn't work.
No.
You know, there's just nothing like that. We're getting away from it and getting away from it and getting away from it. So, that's my belief, that if more people had, and Rome is so right, man. When we were growing up, Roman Catholic, their God was an angry God, and he would strike you down. And I mean, you grew up fearing God. You were like, struck you. You looked up at the sky and went, "Oh man, I hope I make it through this one. He's gonna get me." You know what I mean? Until you got older and you started learning about Jesus Christ, and you started doing Bible study, and you started picking things out when he was on the cross, and he said, "Sons, take care of your mother. Your mother, you see your mother's," and you actually read a whole chapter or two on what he really meant when he said that.
Yeah.
You know, anything that Jesus said, you just can't take it on its face. You really but if people had that, you know, it's like, that's okay. There's so many people. You can count them on my toes, really. I shouldn't say so many. I don't say my fingers because I got 10 fingers, but I only have 9 toes. So you can count these people on my toes. But Roma knows that if any of these people came back into my life and said, "Hey, man, I'm from the bottom of my heart, I'm really sorry." I'm nobody. Who am I? Who am I to say, "I don't forgive you"?
Yeah.
Because you know what? My day's going to come, and I'm going to be on my knees going, "I'm sorry." And I want him to say, "That's okay."
Yeah.
That's okay. But I don't want him to show that video and go, "You want me to forgive you? Remember when he came to you and he wanted your forgiveness and you wouldn't give it to him?
Yeah.
You want mine." I don't live my life like that. Now, sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't, because the person gets you again, and Roma goes, "You didn't learn from the first time."
But I think,
Dude, let me
gentlemen,
ask that. Do I look like that when I talk? Because I'm getting a complex over here.
sometimes it sounds like you look like that, Paul, when you're on the phone and you get heated about something. But
Yeah.
but I think what were you saying there? I think what it comes down to, though, is just gosh, I completely forgot what you just said there, Mario, because we were laughing there. What were you saying before we started laughing?
About people coming to for
to
forgiveness and
for,
giving them forgiveness.
forgiveness.
Yeah.
I saw the Passion of the Christ. I was born again in 2004. It was a series of events. But anybody who hasn't watched the Passion of the Christ, I urge you to watch that with Jim Caviezel, produced by Mel Gibson.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal film. He captured the true spirit of what is written in the Bible. And as a writer, as a man who's written for many, many, many years and been paid to do so, I can tell you this: when I read the pages of the Holy Bible, that is ordained by a divine source right there. There is no way a human in that time period would have sat there and written like that. And no one would have had that. I mean, Jesus forgave even when he was getting beaten and spit on and nailed to the cross. I remember watching that film and weeping, understand.
People were moaning and screaming in the movie theater. It came out on an Ash Wednesday. I went to the first matinee.
Uh-huh.
Screaming and weeping in the theater. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
I said to myself when I watched that movie,
Mm.
and I'm not making myself out to be anything. Please don't take this the wrong way. But I said I would have went over and carried it for him.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That's how I felt. That's how it affected me. I kept saying, why aren't they helping him? Why, and I knew the story. Don't get me wrong. I knew the story. But that was one of the things I just kept saying, why?
Yeah.
Why are they allowing this to happen?
Right.
Help him carry it.
Yeah.
At least do that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But again, it comes back to those who, like I said, it was a void of it. To me, it felt like that as well. I was like, where's your humanity? Where's your compassion? Void of it. Again, no spirit in that person. But on that note, gentlemen, we'll say a couple of things before we part here. So we mentioned earlier about the program that Paul and Mario we'd all love to start here. So Elon Musk, if you are listening to this podcast, and you've got some finances to spare, it would be greatly appreciated in this direction, because you never know.
It's a great cause.
He may see
great
it.
Cause.
A great cause. And of course, we've got the U.S. Elections coming up next week. So again, pray, really understand what it is you're doing. I do think we are at a pivotal point in history. So one way or the other, it's going to take us into a completely uncharted territory. So just use prayer as your discretion in this, and make sure you do vote. If you've never voted before, make sure. It's going to be very, very important this year. Also, the super chats will be coming back soon. We are still in the process of building our channel, our network again. So once we feel that we've reached that particular point where it would behoove everybody for us to open a super chat and have you all come in live and ask us questions. And also, if you want to buy us a cup of coffee, you can do that through Patreon. The Hey Roma t-shirts will be available soon. As much as we don't blend wrestling with this show, we will have those t-shirts available in time for WrestleCon 2025, if anyone wants those. Any final closing remarks, gentlemen, before we sign off?
I'd just like to say thank you to everybody. I think this is a great time. I think we covered some really good stuff. Love to hear back from everybody out there. Send your thoughts, send your questions, send your prayers. We'll take them all.
Yeah, we'll take them all. Mario?
Yeah.
Hit that subscribe button, please.
Yep.
First of all, listen, get out and vote. I used to say, hey, if you don't vote, don't complain. But you know what? Don't be afraid to go to the polls and vote. It's so important, because if something looks like something, it might not necessarily be, and I'm hoping it's not, and I don't mean to set anybody here, but it certainly looks like revelation right now. So I'd like to be wrong. If somebody can pull us out of it.
Yeah.
But go out and vote, and be charitable, be kind to each other, please. We're all Americans. Remember 9/11? No, that's wrong. I'm sorry. Remember 9/12. because that's when all of us loved everyone, regardless. Saying hello to strangers on the street, hugging strangers. We were all one people. And you know what? It's totally forgotten. And it wasn't that long ago.
Mm.
We were all united, and whoever wins this thing, if you're a real American, if it's not your candidate, so be it. Thy will be done. You're still in the United States. Pray for that president and pray that they do well.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. You said it well, Mario. So, viewers, just like Mario said, again, make sure you march across that subscribe button. Stand tall and proud. And thank you for joining us on the rebirth of Hey Roma, the podcast. And make sure you tell all your friends and family about us. But until then, our fellow Americans and my fellow Americans, Mr. Paul Roma, Mario Mancini, we salute you all. And, but gentlemen, stay on the line. We'll see you again next week, everybody. Take care and God bless.